everyone, and welcome to the third episode of We Are Milton.
Welcome.
A podcast brought to you by the City of Milton. I'm Inga Cushman, Administrative Services Director for the City of Milton. And with me today is Al Hulick, City Administrator for the City of Milton. And the goal for our podcast is to bring you information about all things related to Milton, Wisconsin.
Right.
And today, we are going to talk about the form of government that the City of Milton has.
Yes.
Should be pretty interesting.
I think so.
So the City of Milton has the mayor-council form of government.
Correct.
There are other types of government. So in Janesville, Whitewater, and Beloit, they have the city manager form of government.
Mm-hmm.
Council manager.
Right, council manager, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about the differences between the two and what Al, as the city administrator, does.
Yeah. So as Inga said, there are multiple forms of government, and even within the different forms of government, there's different iterations of that. There's strong mayors, and there's weak mayors, and that's not an indication of the personality types of the mayors, but how they are viewed within their respective municipalities' ordinances and what their powers and purview are. So in Milton, we are a mayor-council form of government, and with the mayor-council form of government allows the discretion of the municipality to have an administrator, and that's my role, city administrator. You also can have a strong mayor form of government in which you don't have an administrator, and there are plenty of communities that have that as well. Edgerton has a mayor, but has an administrator as well, so they have a very similar form of government from us. And the question always comes up to me is, well, what's the role of the mayor, or what's the role of the city administrator? Why do we have both? And typically in the form of government that is a mayor, council, administrator form of government, the city administrator kind of acts as the day-to-day operations, the COO of an organization. And is typically full-time and is employed by the council and the mayor, generally through an employment contract, and works as kind of that head of operations for the organization. And then the mayor serves as kind of that board chair or CEO role, in which they are kind of the top of the organizational chart, and then the city administrator reports directly to the mayor. So that is the role that I have, although I report to all the common council and the mayor. The mayor is the one who provides my day-to-day direction, if there is day-to-day direction. So in a strong mayoral form of government that we don't have, but you may be accustomed to that in like a Milwaukee or a Chicago, where that mayor is really out front and center and is setting policy and is effectuating policy and doing some more of the day-to-day operational things. Typically those are full-time folks. Our mayor is part-time. So they wouldn't be afforded the opportunity or the time or resources to kind of do the day-to-day stuff. So.
And our current mayor, Anissa, she has a regular full-time job that she's also trying to maintain. Yeah. So if you are trying to get a hold of her, give her a little bit of time. She does have a full-time day job as well. Yeah, you can always email her as well and call her on her cell phone, the mayor's cell phone. So yeah, she keeps sporadic office hours, but that's not uncommon in this form of government, simply because, again, the day-to-day operations are kind of are moved on to the staff and myself. So those are the kind of the mayoral types of governance. In folks who are maybe accustomed to Janesville or Whitewater, as you mentioned, and Beloit.
Yep, and Beloit. They don't have a mayor. They have a city manager. So whereas I'm a city administrator, they have a city manager, and that city manager serves that dual role, kind of the CEO and COO of an organization. So they are creating policy and effectuating policy within their respective organizations at the direction of the Common Council. Both Beloit and Janesville and Whitewater certainly have Common Councils that help set and shape the vision of the organization. But it's up to the city manager then to really kind of do the work from there on out. Yeah. And
typically there's a council president that's elected to kind of run the meetings, essentially. Is that?
Yeah, each community has little variations on how they do things. Janesville has a council president. That council president then runs the meeting and then has some level of discretion over agendas. Whereas in the city of Milton, we have a council president as well. They do not run the meeting, but they're they serve in that role of support in the event that the mayor is not present. And they also are looked upon for guidance or perspective in terms of agenda items and things like that. So, yeah. So each organization's a little bit different, and it's just a really kind of a matter of how the organization was created, how it's been run over time, different changes that have occurred throughout the life of an organization. Some of these decisions are 60, 70, 80 years old. Others are relatively more recent. I don't think Milton had a city administrator until the 70s.
I think it was later than that. I'd have to check. The interesting thing is that the city administrator position is actually in the ordinances, in the charter ordinances. Yeah. So anytime that a change is made to Al's position, like a couple of years ago, we wanted to add an economic development component to the city administrator position, that had to be on a ballot to be changed.
Yes. Yeah, and that may seem strange, but there's a logic behind that. The city administrator is a charter ordinance, which is, when you think about it, it really is exactly that. It's the charter ordinances are those core ordinances that establish the municipality. So when the charter ordinance was amended to create the city administrator position, at the time, that was a conscious decision made by the council and the electorate and the citizens of Milton. So with that being said, if there's ever any change to that, then it should go back to the citizens. And that's why it did back in 2015 or 14 or something like that.
Yeah, So you may have seen that on a previous ballot, and that change was made in the ordinances because it was approved by the voters.
Yeah. So kind of in conclusion, there's really kind of three common types. There's the mayoral council, then there's the mayoral administrator council, and then there's the city manager council. Those are the three different types. All of them have a council, all of them have an elected board that again works to kind of set the policy. And it's just a matter of how is that policy effectuated by the organization once the council sets that policy. Is it done by a mayor, or is it done by an administrator, or is it done by a manager? So each one's a little bit different, and we're kind of, I'm sure we're not unique, but in Rock County it's kind of cool that we have really all three forms right here to a certain degree.
Yeah, definitely. And not to complicate things further, but there's cities, but then there's also towns. So towns are the areas that surround the cities essentially. And in Milton, we have the town of Milton mainly surrounding Milton.
Yeah.
And then
we touch a portion of Harmony.
Yes.
Just a small portion of Harmony along Town Line Road. That's the name. That's the break point between the towns. Yeah. I mean, not to go way back, but when Wisconsin was incorporated as a state in 1848, they adopted the county and township form of government, in which counties were created, and then those counties were further subdivided. And there is
this like a 6x6?
Yeah, something
square.
There is a set distance that towns are a grid that was created. And then within those townships, there are villages and cities, so we're going to even further complicate it. And then you can be incorporated or unincorporated, and you can have home rule and not home rule that allow you to have TIFs or set your own tax rate, things like that. It's or tax levy, I should say. So yeah, it gets further complicated and probably further boring the more you drill down into it.
But it's interesting, if you look at a map, you can typically see the lines for the towns and the lines for the cities. And you can see that grid pattern, especially in Rock County still, that those towns were established, and then as populations grew in certain areas, they incorporated into cities or villages.
Right. And we've recently seen that in Rock County, where the town of Beloit has undertaken efforts to incorporate portions of their township in order to create their own village and or city. So we're kind of living that right now. At one point, that happened with all of us, really. Whether those were hundreds of years ago or 50 or 60 years ago. But like Broadhead is a village. Orfordville is a village.
I think it's a village.
Village, yeah. And again, that just all that really means, the differentiation there, not to get too deep into it, is how you are viewed in the eyes of the state and what your abilities are in terms of home rule. And when we say home rule, that it's a kind of a catch-all term that describes certain aspects of state statutes that allow that give permission to the municipality to do certain things in terms of taxation and land division and annexation into districts and things like that. So, Inga and I both went to school for this. Both went to Northern Illinois University, and this was, large segments of our education is to try to understand exactly what is local government, how did local government come to exist, what's the importance of local government, what role does it serve in our communities and in our states and in our counties. There's a lot more to this than just a 15-20 minute podcast, but we're trying to keep it interesting.
Yeah. So one of the points of confusion for a lot of people is what municipality they're actually in.
Yes.
So for those people who live on like the north side of Janesville, they may have a Milton address, be in the Milton School District, but they're actually residents of the city of Janesville.
Yes.
So it's important to know which municipality you're in, especially for voting purposes, so you know which location to go to on election day. So if you're looking to try and figure out where exactly you live, you can look at your tax bill and it shows the different taxing jurisdictions that are represented on the tax bill. You can go to the Rock County website, check out the tax database, and you can enter in your property address and it'll show you what municipality you're in there. Another website you can go to is myvote.wi.gov. And that website is a great resource to find out what municipality you're in, but also for registering to vote and signing up for absentee voting as well.
Yeah, civil division lines can be confusing, especially when the township carries the same name as the municipality. So we have the town of Milton and the city of Milton. But Janesville has the same situation, and so does Beloit, in which they have portions of their city touch a township with a similar name. One quick way to know whether you live in the town or the city is, do you have a fire number out in front of your home? If you have one of those little placards that says Town of Milton 64328, you live in the town. If you don't have one of those, then you probably live in the city. And as Inga said, it's even a little extra confusing in portions of Janesville that have Milton addresses but live in the city of Janesville. And then the school district of Milton dips way down into the city of Milton, or city of Janesville as well. So even I can't even explain it without confusing the two names sometimes. But yeah, it does get a little confusing, and maybe there's folks who are listening right now saying, really, people don't know where they live? And the answer is yes. And I can understand why in certain situations. I send my kids to Milton School District. I thought I lived in the city of Milton. I have a Milton address. Well, no, you actually live in Janesville. I know it's weird. So, but be thankful we don't live in Illinois, where things are even more confusing down there. So
we won't even get into that. But another thing that's a little confusing as well is that the town of Milton Town Hall is in the city of Milton. So residents of the town of Milton, when they go to vote, they have to go to Town Hall, which is located on the west side of the city near Quick Trip. But residents of the city of Milton come to City Hall, located on the east side of the city, across the street from Piggly Wiggly.
Yes. Yeah, that is... I don't necessarily, again, know if that's all that uncommon.
I don't know either.
But it's one of those little fun nuances. Not to mention the fact that the city of Milton used to be two completely different cities anyways, up until 1969. So, yeah.
So another time we can talk about the history of Milton and the two downtowns and the merger.
We'll have to bring Carrie back for that one.
Yes, Carrie from the Milton House Museum will have to give us a little bit more history on that.
Yeah.
So I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover. Was there anything else any other points that you think would be good to mention?
Yeah, form of government is one that is important when you're looking to understand how your government works, understand how to become involved in your government, understand how to effectuate change within your government. As Tip O'Neill said back in the 80s, all politics are local, and that still remains true here in 2019. And whether you have a mayor or a council, those are the folks who you elect to represent you. And in the administrator and or manager roles, we're the ones who effectuate that vision. So think of us as kind of think of the mayor and the elected officials as the kind of the inventors, the inventors, and think of the administrators, managers, and staff as the worker bees. Not to say that mayors and councils don't work, but we're the ones who kind of put it together. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Okay. If you have any questions about our form of government or anything else, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can and try and get you the answers that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. As we always say at the end of these things, besides We Are Milton,
yes.
If you have any thoughts about future podcast ideas, or if you have any questions about things that we've said during this podcast or any other podcast, you can always call me 868-6900 extension 6, or give me an email. We can talk and we can learn together.
So thank you again for listening to this episode of the We Are Milton podcast. And we're hoping that this podcast is educational.
Mm-hmm. That's the goal.
And maybe a little bit entertaining.
Maybe.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, we haven't juggled or sang or anything like that.
Not yet. We'll have a talent session sometime.
Yeah, maybe.
But also we'd like this to be inspiring for you to become more involved in the Milton community. And we'll be bringing on different people to talk to you about different ways that you can become involved in the community.
Right. Be the change you want to see.
Yes.
That's what Gandhi said. See, there's your educational piece.
Perfect. So we are officially on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and I do put a video version on YouTube as well. Mm-hmm. So, in closing, we are Milton.
Oh, I like how the camera kind of...
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.